Mother, if you wanna find hell with me, I will show you Verotika. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what I just experienced. Because this film is absolutely, supremely shitty. Verotika is hands down one of the worst fucking films that I've had the displeasure of witnessing in recent memory. And before I tear it apart any further, I want to give a very special shout out to Joseph Charlesworth for requesting this particular review. He called it a stinking pile of garbage, and if you ask me, that's putting things lightly, because Verotika is astonishing when it comes to its ineptitude, its incompetence, and its sheer awfulness. The film has gotten a recent reputation of being the room of horror movies. I don't understand that at all, because at least The Room is entertaining. It's bad in a way that is enjoyable. This is fucking torturous, because for the most part, it's just tedious and terrible and dull and flatlined and just full of pretentious, try-hard dialogue and direction. This is a art film made by somebody who thinks that they are some kind of auteur or legitimate artist, and they are nothing but a bullshit artist, because they spew nothing but bullshit all over the screen. And the bullshit artist who's responsible for this shit stain is Glenn Danzig. Yes, the musician, singer, and songwriter. Apparently he woke up one day and decided, you know what? I can make a movie. And you know, when that happens, most of the time, when it comes to people like Danzig, the results are usually atrocious. They are usually not very good. And Verotika is no exception to that rule. Danzig should stick to music. Stick to your wheelhouse. Stick to what you're familiar with, because you have no idea what the fuck you're doing when it comes to writing or directing. This film is a spotlight on Danzig's ineptitude when it comes to being a writer and a filmmaker. It's almost embarrassing. It's not almost. It is embarrassing. If you were going to do something like this, why didn't you just hire somebody else to direct? Why did you think for a second that you were talented enough to be able to do directing, let alone write the entire film? Is it just because you published the comic book Verotika that this is based on? So you thought that, oh, I published it, so I'm the guy who can bring this to life. I'm the guy who can make this work. You would have saved yourself a lot of trouble and a lot of embarrassment if you just put your ego aside and let somebody else handle this particular project. Because, you know what? This might have had potential if it was handled by some kind of filmmaker or writer who had a semblance of how to write a proper story, to create the right structure for an anthology, and somebody who knows how to direct in even the most basic possible fashion. I mean, there are sequences in this movie that really do baffle you in terms of their ineptitude. You're like, how did he not catch this? How was this actually allowed to get released this way? Is this a fucking joke? Or is this some kind of serious attempt at some kind of visionary work? So Danzig, he has all the earmarks of a wannabe auteur filmmaker who is 100% a total amateur. There are sequences in this film where the camera will like drift, and then Danzig will be like, "Oh shit," and then move the camera so then it focuses in correctly on the actors. There are shots that are out of focus. There are random zooms for no other reason other than to zoom the camera in. Danzig has no idea how to shoot perspective properly because there are numerous sequences in this film where dead bodies appear as if they're fucking kaijus. And if that isn't bad enough, he's got all these sequences and all these other moments in the movie with this lighting and these different camera angles in some sort of half-hearted, half-assed attempt to be an auteur, to really, prove that he's this up-and-coming director. But like most directors who work on these low-budget films, they don't know what the fuck they're doing, so they just expose the low budget and they expose their own flaws as a filmmaker when they do all these things. The lighting, the different angles, the different zooms and whatever, they do nothing to actually help the film. It just exposes how cheap this movie is. It exposes the film's low budget, and a genuinely talented filmmaker would be able to not show those ineptitudes. They'd be able to cover them up. Danzig can't do that because he fucking sucks as a director. He also can't get the best performances out of his cast, probably because he doesn't even know what good acting is. And it's evident because if he had a screen test for any of these actors or actresses, either he was drunk off his ass during the screen test and just took anybody who came in and looked hot and gave them a role, or just gave some of his friends some acting parts, or he didn't really give a fuck about, any genuine acting talent. He just wanted to make a movie for shits and giggles because he was fucking bored and had some free time, so he decided, all right, I guess I'll make a movie. So, yeah, he doesn't know how to get the best performances out of his cast because he's such an incompetent and just really awful director. And if his directing isn't bad enough, his writing is just as fucking bad. He doesn't know how to set up the structure of a plot properly. There are numerous different stories here in this anthology that don't make much sense and have the bare fucking minimum of a storyline. You can barely even call them stories because some of them don't even have legitimate beginnings, middles, or ends. They just keep going, or they just stop. You have pretentious lines of dialogue where he's trying to sound like he's deep and he's introspective and so on and so forth, but you can see right through it, and you can see the steaming pile of bullshit that he tries to throw at the script and pass it off as gold. And you're like, no, it smells like bullshit, Danzig. It's not fucking gold, because I don't think you know what gold actually is when it comes to a screenplay, when it comes to dialogue. You have characters talking about fucking people in the ass and snapping people's necks. Don't give me this try hard bullshit. And there, like I said, there are other sequences that just nothing happens. The last segment is literally just this countess who's going around cutting throats, splashing blood all over her, drinking blood, and making sexy faces. That's all the fucking sequence is. That's all the story is. There's some gore, some extra bits of gore, but that's all that ever fucking happens. And as an anthology, it never really provides any sort of just desserts, because it doesn't set up these characters in a way where it's like, oh, they're getting what they deserve. No, you don't get anything like that. There's nothing satisfying when it comes to that, when it comes to the story. It's just everything about the way that he wrote this is so unbelievably frustrating as someone who is a fan of horror anthologies, because none of it makes any fucking sense. I mean, it even starts off awkwardly and ineptly, because it starts out with this sequence with this succubus or demon chick who has this other woman who's chained to a wall, and she pokes her eyes out, which honestly was a good effect. I'll give the film credit for that. But there's no context of what's going on. So when I first watched this film, I was wondering whether or not I was watching something that had some scenes missing, because of how ineptly this was set up and this was structured. There's no context to anything. It's just random fucking girl pokes some other random fucking girl's eyes out, starts speaking to the camera and calls people darklings, and then we get the opening credits. And speaking of the opening credits in Verotika, they look like they're something from 1999. They're so cheaply made. It's really pathetic. It looks like the kind of shit you would see from a direct-to-video movie, not something that you would see even from an independent film from 2019. It really does look like some kind of throwback or lost relic from 1999 when it comes to the CGI and the art direction and so on and so forth. And then you get the first story, which is the albino spider of Dejet. And I'm going to try to make some sense out of this story, but I don't think that's possible, because it even breaks its own rules by the end of it and makes everything just total fucking nonsense. I hate films like this. I hate stories like this that just don't really provide anything in terms of even the most basic storytelling. It's just shit happens. And so in this segment, you have this woman with pink hair named Dejet, who is played by Ashley Wisdom, who, you know what? Hey, Ashley, here's a word of wisdom. Get out of acting, because you're not cut out for it. You are one of the worst actresses I have ever seen in any film. And I'm also talking about porn. I've seen porn actresses who've delivered more convincing performances. So she plays this character named Dejet, and for some reason, she's got fucking eyes on her titties. It's never explained why the fuck she has eyes on her tits, but she has eyes on her tits. That's like the only time where you could be like, hey, my eyes are actually down here. Or you could, or when you get an eyeful, you actually get an eyeful. And then there's this CGI spider, which looks like something straight out of the fucking Sci-Fi Channel It's completely inauthentic, and you can spot it a mile away as being fake as fuck. And it falls on the ground. One of her tits cries, and the tear lands on the spider, and the spider turns into this 8-armed albino fuckboy. And I call him fuckboy because that's basically all this fucking guy does. This spider fuckboy over here talks about fucking people, bending people over and fucking them in the ass, and snapping people's necks. That's all he fucking does. And for some reason, there's now a connection between her and this spider fuckboy. And the spider fuckboy is going around while she's asleep, killing random hookers, which I guess are people she doesn't like. But this screenplay is so shitty, it never really makes it clear why he's doing any of these things, why he's going around killing these hookers. And by the end of it, she decides she's going to kill herself, so she takes a bunch of drugs and overdoses on what honestly are probably the same drugs that Danzig fucking took while he was writing this garbage. And then the rules change. This is just lovely storytelling. Can't even follow their own fucking rules, because I don't even know if Danzig was even cognizant enough to even realize that he had any rules for his story. And you know what's crazy? This fucking story is the one that you could actually argue is kind of an actual story, because there kind of is a beginning, a middle, and an end. The other two, you can't even make that argument. So what I mean by it breaks its own rules, it's established previously that there's some connection between DeJet and this spider fuckboy. And, okay, wouldn't it make sense that once she's dead, he dies too? Why is he still alive? So he's still alive for some reason, even though she's dead. The French police come in, and instead of reacting like anyone normally would when they see this fucking albino 8-armed spider fuckboy monster, they just react calmly. Instead of going like, holy shit, what the fuck? They're just like, oh, get your hands off her neck. Get your damn hands off her. And this script is so fucking shitty. The cops, they say, get your hands off her neck, and she's fucking dead. She's on the ground. She's dead. The spider fuckboy doesn't have his arms on her neck when they come in because she's fucking dead. She died of an overdose. So the French police shoot the spider fuckboy, and that's it. That's all. It's all, folks. You're like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck is this shit? Fucking 8-armed spider fuckboys that come to life because some woman's titties cry on top of a fucking spider. This is the kind of shit that it would be incredibly difficult to make up on the fly off the top of your head, even on the hardest drugs. And also, it doesn't help either that, I guess it's because maybe they hired a bunch of French actors and actresses for this segment, but their accents are so thick you could barely understand what the fuck anybody is saying throughout the majority of this segment. And you know what? That might be a good thing, because this is the kind of dialogue you get, the winning dialogue you get from this particular segment. So here you have Spider Fuckboy, who is I think he's like hiding in an alleyway, and he's speaking to this hooker, and he's like, first I want to beat you over right here, and then I want to fuck you in the ass. Oh, Monsieur has good eyes, and fuck is my specialty. That I wish to hear your neck snap. Oh, Monsieur, only joking. Yes? Wait, how many are you? Excuse my horrible attempt at a French accent. Yes, that's your winning dialogue in this fucking... This is the first segment, okay? This is the first fucking segment. There are 2 more segments after this fucking thing. God damn it. Forgive me, I just need a little bit of need a moment. I need a moment here. This fucking movie, man. Oh, and just one more little bit of wisdom when it comes to Ashley Wisdom's acting. This is no joke. The level of acting you get from her in this segment. Spider Fuckboy is telling her that she's the one that killed her friend or her friends. I do the things that you cannot. No. No. No, I did. No, I don't. No, I didn't kill them. No. Just give her the fucking Oscar. Man. So the next segment is called Change of Face. And all this segment is there's this random mystery woman, and the script is so genius that her name is just Mystery Woman. This random mystery woman is going around cutting people's faces off. You never know why she's cutting people's faces off. I guess she has some kind of skin thing, like her face is a little disfigured, but the way that it's displayed in the segment, it doesn't look so bad that she needs to cut people's faces off. So yeah, she goes around cutting the faces off of these women. And when she's not cutting people's faces off, she's stripping at the local strip club. And most of the segment is just an excuse for Glenn Danzig to sit on his fucking ass and watch women strip. Because there's not 1, not 2, but 3 sequences and just overly long shots of this mystery woman pole dancing. It is just an excuse for Glenn Danzig to go to a strip club for the shoot and get his rocks off. You're just like, why? Why? And this segment goes nowhere. It's only like 20-something minutes, but it feels like it's an hour and 20 because most of it is just Glenn Danzig's excuse for watching women pole dance and, this random mystery woman cutting people's faces off. And then there's some detective who's on the case. Sean Waltman, X-Pac from WWE, he's in this. And he's not even in it enough to even get X-Pac heat. You get no heat. I honestly forgot he was even in the movie until I looked at the credits. And the final moments of this segment are just more ineptitude of the highest order. Because the mystery woman gets cornered by the cop. She cuts his face. He calls her a bitch. Shoots her a few times. She's clearly bleeding quite a bit. And then the last shot is her dancing at another strip club under the name Mysteria. Right as rain, like she never got shot once wasn't bleeding at all. What? What was even the fucking point of that story? Because it doesn't go anywhere. Makes no sense. Now she's fucking Wolverine for some reason, and she has a healing factor. What the fuck, Danzig? The fuck are you doing? And then the third segment is honestly the worst. It's the worst segment out of this fucking thing. It's called Drujika, Contessa of Blood. Oh, and one more thing. I guess I gotta, talk about the acting in the other segment. It's just as bad as the acting in the first segment. Nobody really does even an average job when it comes to the performances. I mean, Rachel Alig as a mystery girl is just a poor man's Elvira. Nowhere near as hot, nowhere near as talented, nowhere near as charismatic. And then you have Drujika, Contessa of Blood, and Alice Haig. Ugh. And Kayden Kross, and everyone else in this segment cannot act. I'm 100% honest when I'm saying below porn star level acting from everybody in this segment. And honestly, pretty much everybody in this fucking movie. And this segment just drags on and on and on. And you feel like you're going to waste away like Donovan at the end of The Last Crusade, because there are just so many extended sequences of this Contessa just pouring blood all over her and making O faces and fucking coming in her fucking chainmail panties. You're just like, what even? Why? This is an excuse to just spray blood everywhere and have this hot chick, I guess, cream her pants. Why shoot that? Why make that your entire fucking story? There's no character development. You just have this Contessa who is a take on Elizabeth Bathory, and she's just spraying blood all over her, and I guess it's supposed to make her younger, but they never give her any old age makeup, so they have this really long, uncomfortable, and annoying sequence where she's like checking her face in the mirror and seeing if her tits are still firm, or her tits are firmer, and all this other shit, checking her ass, and you're like, you literally look the fucking same. What are you looking at? Fuck. And there's this woman who I guess she kidnaps and brings to her, but then she just cuts her throat and drinks her blood. And then there's this other woman that she also does the same to, or was going to, but she ultimately beheads her instead. There's this other girl, she rips her heart out. And it just ends. There's no real ending to anything. She just decapitates this one girl, takes the severed head into some fucking part of her lair with other severed heads on the wall, and sits in a throne holding a severed head. That's fucking it. Pointless. Pathetic. Atrocious. Garbage. And the wraparound segments aren't really much of anything either. The goth, succubus, slutty demon chick, she'll just introduce some segments and continue to say, hello, my darklings. This is our next tale. And she also ends the film, and she just, I guess, bathes herself in some more blood and then says, until next time, my darklings, there will be no next time, because I'm never fucking watching this movie ever fucking again. I would rather watch The Wall in my bedroom. I'd rather watch anything else. I mean, no, I mean, there are, I don't want to watch Creepshow 3, so, but even some of the worst films that I could think of that are not Creepshow 3, I would rather watch than Verotika. I mean, that's how bad this fucking movie is. The only things I can give it is there are some decent practical gore and makeup effects at times, like the eye poke in the beginning. Some of the instrumental music by Danzig is alright. But that's all. That's the only I can. Oh, and alright, the production and art design of the bathtub that the Contessa was using when she's bathing herself in blood and fingering herself to completion. But yeah, other than those things, nothing. Just because you have a bunch of hot chicks and showing their tits and you have blood and gore, that doesn't mean you have a film. It doesn't mean you have anything that is worth of any kind of substance or worth watching. I got nothing else, man. I really don't. I would just suggest you stay far, far away from Verotika. Danzig did it. He went into the pits of hell, and he brought up Verotika, and he unleashed it among us all. And for that, he can go fuck himself.